Hi, I just realized a very annoying thing about these videos, and that is at the moment, they don't have subtitles and the closed captionings, which I love because I remember going through and working full time and going to school full time, and the only time I had to do so much of my work was on the bus ride. And I can just imagine like how handy it would be to be able to like watch all these videos as you're commuting, whatever, assuming you're not driving. And that would be really handy, but only if there's subtitles that you can read along with. So I will go through and repost the videos that I've done so far with subtitles, which thank you to YouTube for actually auto-generating subtitles. All right, so I will go through and do that. In the meantime, I hope that all of you have actually read some of the material that is in that assigned reading before you go through and read this or watch this video. Because what I really want to talk about is Walker's piece, Who Gets to Write About Whom, which is a very, very important thing for me. And I think that a lot of times in my past and in my history, it's been a very uncomfortable thing. Um, but like everything, the way to deal with what's uncomfortable is to talk about it. And whether that ends up being um, race or gender, discrimination, the uncomfortabilities of body politics, accessibility issues, any number of things that make us uncomfortable, I believe very strongly that the way through that is to talk because we are all human. We are all people and we all have these emotions and feelings and the desire for equity, the desire of prosperity, the all of these feelings that all of us have, they need to be talked through so that we get to recognize the humanity in each other. And part of that is sometimes recognizing the harm that we can do to each other. Um, and also through that recognizing, now we can actually work together, collaborate together in the most productive, meaningful, amazing experiences that we end up creating together. So let's talk about Walker's Who Gets to Write About Whom. I am not from the Caribbean. I am not from any African descent. I am not from any Indian descent. I am not from any indigenous descent of the Caribbean islands. I still have spent my life dedicated to this field of study and this discipline. And I now am the one in front of you teaching you. And if anybody has feelings towards that, that's okay. We can still discuss those things, and we should discuss those things. Um, know that I am fully aware that I am white. That sounds silly for some people to say, but in the field that I do, I am a white woman from the United States who comes from a place of privilege, who well has certain, identity aspects that intersect with other identity aspects. I am fully aware that two of those, three of those, is that I'm a white woman from the United States. Um, and that puts me at a very unique, privileged advantage point where in aspects I'm privileged, in other aspects I'm not privileged. Um, and when we're in class and we start to talk about intersectionality more on Wednesday, I'll actually share more with you about that. Um, so, should I be able to teach this class? Should I be able to write about Caribbean literature? Now, I've already shared part of my heritage is Irish. I didn't share that. Part of my heritage is Irish heritage. That's why I was doing world literature with an emphasis in post-coloniality in Ireland when I started my graduate degrees. Um, and knowing that there is an Irish presence in the Caribbean um, does, in a certain extent, lead some amount of credence to my study and my work. Um, and largely, a lot of my work does deal with those interactions between different races that exist in the Caribbean islands. Um, but also, as Walker has stated, right, expertise in an area and that expertise of extensive study um, is also an important aspect to who gets to write about whom. Um, just as I think it was whoever wrote The Grapes of Wrath, um, he went through and he did that research and he did that work into the migrant workers in California, right? Those ranch workers and their lives and their livelihoods. That expertise that you gain from doing that work, from having extensive study, does amount to something. Now, along with that, there is an acknowledgement that if anyone else was offering to teach this class that had more lived experience than I actually do in the Caribbean, I would back off. I wouldn't teach this class. That person would be your professor. Those voices and amplifying those voices is much more important than to me than teaching this class. Um, that being said, I love Caribbean literature and I love teaching and I love what I do, but I would never overstep someone else's voice. Um, and hopefully, we're able to see that when we actually do start to talk about the literature and giving the authors space to say what they say. Um, we'll have that as well. So, what are our responsibilities when we do study another culture that is not ours? And perhaps you are from the Caribbean. And if so, I can't wait to talk to you and to provide you, right, some of your experiences, space as you are comfortable doing so. But if you're not from the Caribbean, then what are our responsibilities when we are studying another culture that's not ours? And primarily what I have found is the number one responsibility is to listen, to to read intently, to read without judgment, and to read for nuance, because every culture is so multifaceted, right? Any group of people, yes, is a group of people and there's collective memories and there's shared experiences, and we'll talk through some of those. Um, but there's also vastly different, unique experiences within those. Um, and those we will give space to as well. So much of the work that we end up doing is being able to see and recognize the similarities and the differences, and to recognize the similarities, to celebrate the differences. This is what makes these diverse courses um, useful, memorable, meaningful, and impactful. To do impactful work in diversity, to become an ally for a group that that you don't belong to, but that you champion. Um, and a lot of that, most of that, is listening. Listening and reading with intent and with non judgment and with an understanding of celebrating difference. All right. So Read Krantz, and let's start.